welcome to the Next Level Confident podcast. My name is Janelle and I have with me my co-host and husband, Frankie Vignone.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Why do you sound so funny?
Because I normally say, bonjour, je me sais quoi.
Oh, you were
And
trying
now I was trying to think
of something new, and then you just acted really weird. You're like,
But I didn't.
you're like, hello, thank you for having me. Cool.
I just realized that computers are really crooked.
Oh, it's fine. It doesn't matter. We
Okay.
got to record. What time even is it right now?
4:23.
4:23. Okay, so we basically have 35 minutes
minutes.
because we just took another hour to set up our podcast studio. You guys, the struggle is real with this podcast right now. I swear, one of these days the struggle is not going to feel so real. But right now we were literally using a hammer to hammer one of the cords into our mics because I got new mics recently, and then one of the cords wouldn't go in. Anyway, it's a whole long saga. I won't bore you with it, but all I can say is that it has been.
We're trying here.
We're trying really hard to get you guys these podcasts, and it is feels like pulling teeth, and we don't have AC, and I swear it's the hottest week of the year right now in San Diego. It's September 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel do you think this is the hottest week of the year for us? Or is it just in our
It's
house?
one of the hottest weeks, yeah.
I'm has the heat
I
just
couldn't
been...
sleep last night. It was so hot.
And we have an
I was
AC unit
sweating.
in our... So, okay, for people who don't know, if you live in San Diego, a lot of times you don't have AC in your house if you live within, what would you say?
A few
miles of the ocean, because you got this ocean breeze, and it does cool off quite a bit at night. If you live 5 or more miles away, you kind of pretty much need AC even in San Diego. But we're by the beach, within a mile of the beach, so yeah, we shouldn't need AC. But there are a couple weeks out of every year where we have to have AC, and we do have an AC unit in our bedroom. But it's been hot.
It's been really hot.
But anyway, we're gonna move on to an exciting update, which is that we just had our 5-year anniversary.
Yes, we did. And you surprised me with a crazy, epic vow renewal with all of our friends in San Diego.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
You
crushed
would
it.
you what would you say your surprise level was?
Give me a scale.
1 to 10, 1 being I had no idea, 10 being I completely knew everything that was going to happen.
I'd say I was a 3.
Okay, a 3. Yeah, because we did have a friend who kind of accidentally did spill the beans a couple months ago, but you what did you think? You thought it was just going to be a couple people for dinner or something like that?
Yeah, but you just went all out, and it was basically a wedding reception.
I know.
It was.
I went all out. It was not fun to plan. I'm not going to lie. I hate planning stuff like that. And it actually gave me a little bit of grace for myself because I hated planning our wedding. I know we planned it together, but I probably did more than you did. And I hated planning it. And then every time I look back on it the last 5 years, I'm like, dang, why didn't you just have more fun? Why wasn't it just more of a whimsical experience? And then I planned this, and it was kind of like a mini wedding, in a way of having flower arrangements and having a seating chart and having name tags and getting a cake. And obviously I couldn't talk to you about any of it. So, and then finding a venue. I did a lot of venue searching, and then I found a place where they have a prefixed meal, so we could all have a prefixed meal together. And on top of that, I was planning the photo shoot. So I really was, hiring a photographer, hiring a content creator, hiring a makeup artist, hiring a hairstylist, getting numerous practice rounds of my hair done, finding a new wedding dress, finding all the jewelry, finding the shoes. Honestly, almost everything that you need to do to plan for our actual wedding is what I did for this 5-year anniversary, which was so worth it. But it was a lot of work. A lot of work.
And you couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah, well, luckily I could talk to you about the photo shoot part. What he did know, for those of you who don't know the story, he did know that I was planning a photo shoot for our 5-year anniversary. And then the idea was we'll just go to dinner after. I'll plan the place that we go to dinner. And then we're going to stay the night at the hotel of the place that we were doing the photo shoot at, which was the Westgate Hotel in San Diego, downtown. So you knew that we were spending the night at a hotel. You knew we were getting a photo shoot. You knew we were going to a dinner. You just didn't know anything about what was going to happen at that dinner.
No. Or who was going to be there and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I just kept saying it's a dinner, just the two of us. It's the dinner, just the two of us. Oh, I found a place for dinner, the two of us. So I knew that he knew that there could be something more than the two of us, but I kept lying and saying it was the two of us.
Did you, when I was asking you about if I should plan dinner after the photo shoot, and you said, yeah, you should, and then I was like, going to, you kind of just let me run with it.
Yeah.
Because you knew, what would have happened if I booked dinner and then...
I was like, I don't even care if it's like a $50 or $100 cancellation. I would have called the restaurant like the day of without you knowing. And I would have been like, hey, I'm going to pay the $50 or I'll pay the $100. But just call him like we're still going. So that's why I actually did want you to plan the dinner at one point. Because I was like, then he really couldn't know that I was surprising him. Because at one point...
What if I planned it at the same place?
That would have been funny. I've been like... Yeah, I guess the only thing that could have been hard is if you were trying to surprise me about where we're going to dinner, and then I wouldn't.
What if
have
I
known
tried to surprise you with an equally epic party with all the same people?
Right.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been really crazy, and everyone like doesn't know what to say. They're like, "So we're going to both of their parties, and Frankie thinks he's planning a surprise party, and Janelle thinks she's planning a surprise party, but they have no idea they're both trying to surprise each other." That would have been like
good.
Inception status.
But that would have been like double the cost. So.
Yeah, that's probably true. Well, I don't know if he's at the same location.
Should we move on?
I guess so. Anyway.
Well, we've only got like 30 minutes now.
Well, people like to hear about these things, I think. I don't know. Maybe
I think they do.
Maybe
I enjoy talking about them.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope they
our
like
5-year
listening.
anniversary is kind of a big deal. Like, we can't just brush over that.
I'm not brushing over anything.
We've been in the honeymoon phase for 5 entire years. Rough. So that was exciting. The photos are epic. If you have not seen them yet on Instagram, 10 out of 10, recommend checking them out. The vision really came to life for that photo shoot. Like,
she crushed it.
I had so many inspo pics, and actually there was one inspo picture I forgot to get. It's where I was wearing gloves and we were standing on the steps and you were kissing my hand when I'm wearing the gloves. So we forgot to get that one, and I was kind of sad about that. But we got jumping on the bed. We got the champagne toast. We got both wedding dresses because I got a new wedding dress along with wearing my old wedding dress. I found a new wedding dress for $200, you guys, at this crazy awesome place in Orange County, and they have like the best dresses. It's like a small, tiny little boutique. Like, you wouldn't even, it's not really like a normal wedding store. It's like in a little strip mall type thing. But like, the lady working there, she was so sweet, so helpful. And I found like the perfect dress that fit me like a glove. And it looks like, I mean, I went wedding dress shopping with one of my friends recently, and she was trying on dresses that looked kind of like the one I tried on. I mean, the one she ended up getting is like really, really, really nice. So I definitely can't compare it to the one I got. But I would say my dress looked like a lot of the like $2,000 to $3,000 dresses that she was trying on.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
It was a very nice dress. And you looked really good in your tuxedo, and you didn't own a tuxedo either before this.
Now I do.
Now you do. Okay, so what we're talking about today is flaws that we both bring into our marriage, because I think that sometimes, like, when I think about like my Instagram and like, you know, I'm constantly talking about like, wait till you find your dream man, wait till you find the perfect guy, all that kind of stuff. Like, I do think that sometimes people get the wrong idea that we do have like maybe an overly perfect marriage or something like that. And I feel like we had to just keep it real with people and let them know, like, we are obsessed with our marriage and we're obsessed with each other, and we are so proud of our marriage, and we have a very happy, healthy marriage. And we still have struggles, we still have arguments, we still have fights just like anyone else, you know? Well, I guess, again, I'm not sure if I should compare to other people, because I know a lot of people like fight a lot more or are a lot less happy maybe as a whole. But like, yeah. I just feel like it's worth saying that we also have struggles and imperfections.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is probably kind of obvious, but I don't feel like we talk about it enough, right?
Yeah, I don't think we talk about it that much at all.
Okay, so let's talk about some of our imperfections. I guess I'll tell on myself for some, and you tell on yourself for some.
Well, I don't have any, so I'm going to leave. My imperfection is I don't like being vulnerable.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a hard conversation for me.
I was kind of prepping him with a few ideas that I had jotted down, and he was like, why are we even doing this? Like, what's the point?
No, I didn't say it like that.
Yes,
no,
you
I didn't.
literally did.
No, I didn't.
You literally were like, what's the point?
You're tired.
You're like, I need coffee for this conversation. Like, what's the point of this? And I was like, the point is to help people understand that, like, no matter how great your marriage is, there's still going to be imperfections. Yeah. And like, I think the same goes for like, you think about dating and whatnot. It's like, you're finding the perfect person for you, but you are not finding a perfect person, because there is no such thing. So you have to like know what flaws you're comfortable with and what flaws you aren't comfortable with, because everyone's going to come with flaws. it's not a matter of if there's flaws or not. It's just a matter of like, if you love the person enough to like continue to work through different flaws together.
Yeah.
So do you want to, okay, you want to expand on your vulnerability? In what way do you feel like you struggle with vulnerability?
I mean, I don't like sharing my flaws of being vulnerable, or like, I think it's I don't know. It's like I actually learned about this last night. If we want to get spiritual on it,
let's get
should
spiritual
we?
on it. Yeah, obviously, of course.
So there's a guy, a pastor, not just any guy, but a pastor that speaks at our church called Pastor Mike Connell. And he's from New Zealand, I think. And he is like amazing pastor, and he travels all over the world. And our church is pretty close with him, so he speaks at our church a lot. But anyway, I was talking to one of my buddies and mentors, a guy that disciples me at our church, and we were just talking about some stuff, and he was like, I think that you might be struggling with the spirit, an orphan spirit. Do you know anything about orphan spirits?
A little bit, but tell us more.
But when people think orphan spirit, they think, what an orphan is in our society, where it's like, you live in an orphanage, or you don't have parents or whatever it is, and like that's kind of it. But it's more so that you have this like longing of searching for something outside of yourself and trying to fill it with worldly voids of whether it's status, title, your identity is based on your performance. It's based on what others' opinions are of you. It's based on people's approvals. And really, we're Christians, and a lot of people that are listening are also Christians. And if you're not, the only thing that can fill that is Jesus, is the Holy Spirit. And for me, I think I have dealt with, and I'm still healing through, and I'm still working through it. And like I actually watched this YouTube video by him last night, and it's talking about the orphan spirit, which essentially means I don't like to share my struggles because I don't want to be found out that I'm like less than, because I sometimes still attach my identity to being this perfect person, quote unquote. Even though like you said at the beginning, like nobody's perfect. That's why like there's no quote unquote perfect people to make up a perfect marriage. Like we're all imperfect people. So I think, to answer your question in a really long way, I would say I don't like being vulnerable because I don't like to expose myself. But I will do that in front of you.
Yeah. That's
what's so beautiful about our marriage, is like you've created that space where I have the freedom to be vulnerable and to share how I feel, and it's not like our marriage isn't based on performance. Our marriage isn't based on conditional things. It's based on unconditional love. But, when we get in a quote unquote public platform like this and share stuff, it's challenging for me because it's like, well, I don't want people to know that I'm actually not like this perfect person. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Like, I think I've come a long way, but that's kind of the root of it.
Yeah. So with the orphan spirit thing, I guess like it sounds like it's rooted in like people pleasing kind of.
Yeah, that's no, it's not rooted in people pleasing. That's a symptom of it.
Or a symptom, I should say.
It's rooted in a spirit of the world, which is you grow up in the world where it's like you have parents or you have coaches or teachers that base their love or their approval towards you based on performance or based on like your title or based on what you've done. It's like a very worldly thing versus a kingdom or Christian thing, because it's based on like outside things, versus if you actually truly don't have issues around the spirit of performance or spirit of, having approval or whatever that looks like, that you don't need that because you have Jesus living inside of you, who is your ultimate identity, and he's already done everything for you. You don't need to get approval because Jesus has already approved you. He's already gone before you and made it happen. So I would say it's not rooted in people pleasing. That's a symptom. It's rooted in trying to get your approval from worldly things.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way of explaining it. So I feel like probably most people have an orphan spirit.
I think
based on like
do.
what you're explaining.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you come into the world. This is kind of off topic of what we were saying, but I think it's helpful. You come into the world from heaven, right? And God created you, and then you're in this world where you have to like go reestablish your identity back in God. And like when you're an infant, you obviously don't know what's going on, and then you grow up depending on what family you're in or environment you're in, like you either are taught these principles or you're not, and that shapes your worldview. So everybody in this world is longing for that heavenly connection to our Father, to God, to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus.
Yeah.
And people search for it in different worldly things through, in corporate America, rising up, getting the title, becoming the CEO or whatever the highest thing is, getting the next salary increase. In entrepreneurship, it's, having your business hit X amount of dollars, having X amount of people on your email list. If it's, I don't know, relationships too. Yeah, 100%. Relationships.
What we're here talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I get my approval from, my boyfriend or girlfriend telling me that I'm a good boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever the case is.
Or if you're single, you're like
single,
looking for someone to fill that approval. Mm-hmm.
So this actually is like the whole stuff that you teach, Janelle, which is don't wait to, you're not teaching like cheap tricks on like how to attract somebody. Like you're teaching people how to become healthy and confident so that once they find that person, it's not, that person isn't filling the void for them. That void is already filled because of God.
Yeah.
And then you're coming together as two imperfect human beings that have God at the center of their individual lives, so that they know that if they have challenges in their relationship or even as single people, like they're not going to the other person in a codependent way seeking them to validate who they are, because they have God as their source of truth and source of help and all the validation. So I think that's like, you want to fix these problems, you have God in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Good mic drops there, dear.
What was I going with that?
I don't know. It was great, though. It was a great aside. I'm
still working it out, too.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool that you're watching those sermons and stuff like in your free time and just learning so much about how God shapes your identity.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Well, I guess I'll talk about some of my imperfections now then.
I guess you should.
I don't know that to be fully honest, I'm not sure if I struggle with an orphan spirit. Maybe parts of it, I'm sure.
I don't think you do. I think...
But
you struggle with... No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I struggle with a lot of things. We're going to talk about that. But people pleasing is generally not one of my... I don't fall...
What about rejection?
Yeah, maybe rejection.
Oh, another thing the orphan spirit talks about is comparison. Comparing yourself to other people.
Okay, I deal with comparison sometimes.
That's why I brought it up. Because we all have comparison issues.
What are my comparison issues?
I'm just kidding.
Please tell me.
No, we're not doing this right now.
Just joking. Well, not to move on from everything you're talking about, so you can obviously bring it up more, but thinking about an imperfection that I bring to marriage is that this is like a little bit of a lighter one, I guess, compared to like the one you shared was a little bit deeper, so I'll get deeper. But I feel like one of mine is like the cleanliness thing, where I have this like, I have this funny thing where I think that I'm like cleaner than I am. Yeah. And
you ain't that clean.
And then like if Frankie does like, it's like, I'm okay if I have like a pile of clothing on the floor in our bedroom, but like if Frankie does like one little thing that's off, I'm like, oh, that's so wrong. Like that's not okay. Like when is that going to get cleaned up? So it's like, it's kind of like the Bible verse, like you're seeing this speck in someone else's eye without seeing the log in your own eye. Like I definitely have that when it comes to cleanliness, where there are certain things that you do that like really annoy me. Like when there's pee on the squatty potty, I just think it's so gross and I'm like constantly wiping it off. Or when there's toothpaste in the sink, which I also am constantly wiping down. So those are like constantly happening and they can like really annoy me sometimes, especially if it's like first thing in the morning, I'm waking up and then I like am about to put my feet on the squatty potty and then there's just like pee all over it. And I'm like, great, am I just out of have pee all over my feet? And so I'm just like so pissed off. But then there's like, it's like that can be like such a big deal, but then I'm like not even looking at like the huge pile of clothing that I have and like all this junk I have all over my office and like all these other things that I'm doing that are not tidy. Like today I showered when I got back from Pilates, then I like left my clothes on the floor of the bathroom, and they're still there right now. I know. But to me, like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get them before the day's done. Like, I wouldn't go to bed having them still on the bathroom floor, but, like, they're going to be there for the rest of the day until I clean them up, like, later this afternoon or tonight before I go to bed. But all I was going to say is, like, I feel like I'll get so mad at you for something, and then, like, a lot of times you'll be really, well, I mean, we go back and forth. Like, sometimes you point out, like, you know, hey, this is like an unfair thing for you to be pointing out because you have this, this, and this. But then other times you're like, okay, whatever. And you just like take care of the thing that I asked you to take care of. But I would say that's something that I'm working on, is not like snapping at you when I'm like annoyed about a cleanliness thing. Because even though I would never leave toothpaste in the sink, or I would never have pee on the squatty potty, or some of the like things that I deem to be more disgusting than like leaving clothing around, there are things that I still do that you don't like that you would never do probably.
Yeah.
Like, is there any example of something that you feel like you're really clean in?
I'm pretty good about keeping the kitchen clean.
You are really good at that.
Probably better than you.
Yeah.
I clean up the dishes more.
Yeah.
I take the dishes out.
You do unload the dishwasher
more. I clean the countertop more.
You're so cute.
But I was thinking the log and speck example, and I was just thinking of like, oh, I might have one sock out, and you're like, look at the sock, and then you'd have the pile, the log of clothes in the corner.
Yeah, it's because it's in a corner. It's like pushed away from the central
You've enabled
areas.
me though. Like, I've started to do that now.
Oh
like,
no!
Where I'm like, oh, I don't care. Janelle has a pile, so I'll just roll with that.
I feel like I'm like a bulk cleaner, so it's like all like once a week, put away all the clothes at once or something like that. But for whatever reason, I like don't do it as much as I want to.
I clean up as I go more. You
do clean up more as you go. I'm bigger on keeping the living room clean though. Like, I feel like if you like move the pillows on our couch, like, we're screwed. They will never get in the right place until
That's
I come back and put all the pillows.
I put them away every night.
The pillows?
Yeah, if you're not here.
Oh, if I'm not here. But if I'm here, I'm the one who puts the pillows back.
Yeah, because you go to bed after me.
Yeah, but I had to start to train you, like, hey, every night when we go to bed, have you ever noticed I'm the one who does like this?
So what's the point on this?
So the point of this is that people just are going to see real life of like, these are real things that even having an amazing
What are the
marriage,
lessons learned?
I don't know. You share the lesson.
I think it's just we can communicate. But when we first got married, and would you say there was ever unset expectations about it? Not really.
About cleanliness?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I pretty much knew you weren't that clean when I would.
But I am clean though. You don't give me credit.
Okay, hold on.
You're not clean either then.
You are way clean. Okay, let me define the differences. When I think of clean, I think of like the pee thing, the toothpaste thing. Like, I'm thinking of those types of things. You're thinking tidiness, I think. So I'm not always tidy, but I'm cleaner.
Okay, you're cleaner, I'm tidier.
There you go.
Okay, so why don't you start cleaning up more?
Okay, well, why don't
you... But I clean the kitchen.
I know.
That's my domain.
And I taught you how to do that. Do you remember when we first got married?
But also it's my domain.
You would clean the kitchen, and then I would have to go back and redo like everything that you had done, and I'd be like, dang, I guess he has never learned how to properly clean a kitchen. So then it took like the first...
I take out the trash.
Hold on, let me finish my thought. The first year of marriage, I was like, for a long time, like going back after you to clean things so they were done properly. But then one day I like showed you, and then probably like 10 other days after that, I kept showing you again and again and again. And then now you crush it and you're so great at it. But what I was going to say is that I think I knew you weren't super clean because like when I came to you and your roommate's house in Denver.
That's different.
It was so gross.
Yeah, but that's different.
Is it?
He was messy.
He was messy.
He's very messy still.
He's gotten better.
No, he's clean.
Maybe.
I don't know. Whatever.
We're not sure. But
I talked to him today.
So anyway, that's one of mine is that I'm trying to be vulnerable here, and then you're just like shoving it down my throat. I didn't go like when you started talking about your orphan spirit and people pleasing. I wasn't like, yeah, and like when you do this. And
I think it's funny.
This.
I just like to see you get riled up. You can take it.
Oh my gosh.
I can't because I have an orphan spirit.
I know you're... Good point. Oh, man. Well, so anyway, that one's one.
Check freeze.
We're still working through that one, obviously. There's still some heated emotions around it all, but we're getting better, you know? I feel like I've gotten better at loading my dishes throughout the day because for me,
oh my gosh,
my routine was
unbelievable.
Because I've worked from home for like
hate this. I've worked from home too.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, but hold on. I'm just explaining
my
schedule.
I'm just
I wish I could just
really
talk
fired up right
without
now.
being interrupted for 2 seconds.
Put me on mute.
He's on mute, folks. No, I'm just checking. So I would have this thing where I would just do all of my dishes at the end of the day. It was like an efficiency thing. I guess there's something that I have with like the clothing piling up, but then doing it all at once, or the dishes piling up but by the end of the day, do it all at once. So I would like have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then all the dishes would be in there, and then I would just do the dishes before bed. That was my thing back when I had roommates. Like,
and they were okay with it?
Well, because I guess like I worked from home. And they didn't work from home.
Yeah.
So actually I should ask them. I'm not totally sure. I'm mostly right now I'm thinking of like my last year of singleness before when I lived with Catherine. She worked in an office every day. I worked from home every day. Because actually before that year I worked at Fit. So I worked in the gym every day. So then I wasn't doing this. So this really did just begin like that last year before I met you. But yeah, so I would just let everything pile up. And then I guess like let's say Catherine was home for dinner. Maybe we'd cook dinner together, maybe we wouldn't, but then I would just do all the dishes afterwards from the day. But that's like not that many dishes. I mean, that's like 2 bowls or whatever from like breakfast and lunch, or like a bowl and a plate and 2 silverwares or whatever, because I would just like microwave or heat up food, something easy. And then dinner, I'd usually make like a bigger dinner, and then I would do all the dishes at once. So that was my habit. But then when I met you, you like to you want it to be put away right away. So then I've gotten better at that habit. Have I not?
You have. Much better.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Ooh. Is that a bug or a fuzzy?
Fuzzers.
Fuzzy. What the heck? Feels like it's a flying fuzzy.
That's weird.
Crazy. Okay. Do you want to tell another imperfection of yours, cutie?
I don't have any others.
I don't have any others. Oh, but I love you. You've gotten a lot better at this one, but the financial one.
Oh yeah.
With like, or really like task list type things.
Yep.
Do you want to share it, or you want me to share it?
I just don't like doing tasks.
I don't necessarily enjoy doing tasks either. But
that don't involve anything if it doesn't include sales that I'm working on.
Yeah, he's really good at finishing tasks when it has to do with work. But some of the home tasks, which he's gotten better at, I would have to ask him like 100 times to do the same task. And I'd be like, do you have a to-do list? Can we come up with a process to help you get better at completing these tasks? I'm trying to think of a good example. Like paying the bills, or...
I don't know how I survived before you.
Well, I feel the same way about you, honestly. We make a great team. I don't know how I like made all the dinners and cleaned all the dishes. That feels like something you help so much with that I can't even fathom having to do.
I know, you really don't help that much. No, you do. Probably 20%.
I
25.
think like 30.
25?
30 to 35%.
30.
For laundry, I give you 90%. I do 10% of the laundry. You do 90% of the laundry.
95.
Cooking, I give you,
27.
about 60 to 70%. I do 30 to 40. I make you breakfast. I mean, can you not picture in the last like couple weeks me like bringing different breakfasts into your office while you're working?
I'm just joking with you, sweetie.
I know, we're trying to be honest with the people.
I know. I think it's funny to have a little tussle.
He's just trying to rile me up over here. I don't know. I know that maybe this podcast for some people isn't adding like value in the way of like personal development, like here's tip 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it is like I think maybe I'm just full of myself or something, but in my mind, especially single people, but probably even married people, if they're listening right now, could listen to this and it could help them be like, oh, well, what percentage of dishes do you think that you do versus I do? And how can we be a better team?
Did we talk about any of these roles ahead of time? Not really.
In our premarital counseling, I remember that Justin, your pastor, gave us a list that we were supposed to fill out, and there was supposed to be primary and secondary if we both did a task, and then if there was some tasks that were just Frankie or just Janelle. And I remember we kind of, if I'm being honest, I think we kind of half-assed it.
Here's a hot take.
Okay. Do you think we half-assed it?
Yeah, because I don't think you can figure that stuff out before you get married.
That's true. If you're not living together.
If you're not living together, you can't. How can you know like what the routines are going to be?
Yeah, it's true.
I think in what? I'm serious.
I just like hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take.
In theory, you can write everything on a list and all this stuff. Maybe it's like. Maybe a better example would be, okay, what do I like to do or what do I not like to do? And maybe you go and do that in like a separate room and not like talk about it. And you're like, okay, let's combine and see, okay, I like to do the laundry. Oh, I don't like to do the laundry. All right, well, I'll do the laundry. I like to do the dishes. Oh, I don't like to do the dishes.
Oh, we both hate cleaning. Let's hire a cleaner.
That's what we did. I think that maybe that would be the better approach versus like, okay, like what are we going to agree on doing versus not doing?
So do it separately, as you were saying, and then come together and see.
Until you're living together. But I think the key behind this is like the clear expectation things and not holding resentment of certain things and like where you feel like somebody should be stepping up and you're just like sitting there getting mad. Like the pee thing on the squatty potty.
Yeah.
Like you've told me that before, but like imagine if you were still holding on to that and like every morning for the last year or 5 years, hopefully it's not been that long.
I don't think we had a squatty potty in the beginning.
You're getting mad every morning and you're like holding this resentment towards me every morning and then one day you just blow up on me.
Yeah.
It's obviously not that big of a deal to you because like I don't clean it up that much. Maybe I have better aim. I don't know what's going on, but
no, it's still a problem.
Then why? What do we do about it?
I don't know. I mean, I bring it up here and there.
But I feel like you haven't brought it up recently.
I brought it up like 2 weeks ago.
I just blacked that out. But I think the point is like sharing what you need and what you need help with and what bothers you and what you expect somebody to do. Because if like I just sat there and you like never ever put the dishes away like after you ate. Like, obviously, I know that you're not going to do it every single time because, like, you have to eat and then get back to meetings and, like, life is busy. But, like, in general, if you have the time, like, put the dish away. Like, that's going to make me a lot happier.
Yeah.
And then for you, like, in general, if you can friggin' remember to not pee on the squatty potty and then also, like, clean up the toothpaste in the sink, it's going to make me a lot happier.
Wait, if I do?
This is you talking to me.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, yeah, I know that bothers you. So then, like, if I don't do it and you come to me and you're like, Frankie, like, you haven't done this in a week and I have to clean it up every morning. It really pisses me off. It's like, I'm the only one to blame.
Yeah.
But if you just come to me and get mad out of the blue and haven't, like, actually, like, had a conversation with me, then I would say that's your fault. Then.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of this stuff goes in relationships where people have these unsaid expectations and they just, like, expect you to know, well, clean up your toothpaste or like put the dishes away after you eat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you blow up. I would argue that like the person blowing up, if you've never like shared it in a calm, cool, collected like once or twice, like that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. Like being able to say it before it gets to the point where you want to like explode on someone is really good and really healthy, because if you're always just waiting until the moment that you're so pissed off, it's going to come off like this huge attack and the person might not be very receptive to it, which I've totally done before, by the way. I'm like preaching to the choir. But when possible, I try to be like, okay, I want to bring this up in a calm, cool, collected way because I do want to bring it up. I don't want to just keep shoving it down, but I also like want to be respectful and mindful of the way that I do bring it up. And I think you and I like tend to lean towards like over communication more than under communication. So I feel like I could hear a lot of people saying like, listen to this podcast, well, how soon do you bring all this stuff up and mention how you're feeling about certain things? Like for us, it was like from the beginning. Like I feel like, I don't know. Obviously you get more and more comfortable. So I maybe wouldn't have mentioned like pee on the squatty potty at the very beginning, but I'd say pretty early on, like we were pretty open and honest with each other. Like I probably made some jabs at you about the cleanliness of your apartment, right?
100%.
So like that was when we were first dating. Like we were in dating stages. There was no ring on my finger. We were in the first 6 months of our relationship. And I was still being like, oh wow, there's a lot of pubic hairs on the ground and all on the like line. What's the like the wooden part at the bottom of
windowsill?
No, like on the bottom of a wall. Like
Crown molding? No,
yeah, I
that's
guess
the top.
yeah, it's not
Oh,
crown.
baseboard.
The baseboards, yeah, the baseboards would have like hairs and dust and stuff. And so I would say that stuff to you. I mean, I wasn't like super mean about it, but I was like,
But I don't think anything's wrong with that because like if you don't say anything while you're dating, and then you get married, and then you expect everything to change overnight, like you're in for a rude awakening. Because like depending on, I mean, we only dated for 6 months or 6 months plus 6-month engagement, but if you're dating for anywhere from 6 months to years and years, like, and then you get married and you think that stuff's going to change, like, it doesn't work that way. You have to communicate it.
Yeah.
So don't do it. Don't come in hot on the first date and be like, you're hot. You need to clean up these clothes. You need to do this. There's pee on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, you got to obviously do it with, like, some wise judgment around the timing,
but probably
sooner than
most
better,
women, I
later.
would say, lean towards
I would agree.
being too maybe like not honest enough in the beginning stages, and then like maybe when marriage happens, then going into like the complete opposite, then being like very much like do this and do this and do this, and like, you know, that's where like some like the word nagging can come up, like,
yeah.
So that's why I'm like, if you can just be more honest on the front end, that, and obviously there's grace involved in all of this, like we both give each other a lot of honesty and communication, but we also both give each other a lot of grace. I'm working on grace more. You're really good at grace. I'm working on the grace thing. That's another flaw of mine, is I'm not as good at giving grace, but I'm working on it. And we can at least have a conversation where I'm humble enough to say that about myself, to be like, okay, some of my expectations are unrealistic, or like, I can be very intense and think it's my way or the highway. And how can I release that and realize I'm not always right, and it's not always my way, and things like that, and like release control. And so I think like, where was I going with that? I think just the idea around like, be honest and communicate early on. You don't need to wait till you've been together for this really long amount of time before you can start to have these conversations and share ways that you're feeling and things like that. But then also once you get married, you don't want to go so far the other direction where you're just then like, oh, well, we're married and now it's my job to just like really control everything and make everything be a certain way. You know, bring more of the grace in that you had during the dating stages into marriage.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Good point.
Any other flaws that we want to talk about? I feel like there was a few more on that list I had written down, but it's on my phone and we're using my phone for something else.
I mean, I can be short-tempered with you.
Oh, yeah.
I get mad easily.
I wouldn't say you get mad easily necessarily, but when you get mad, you definitely have said some pretty hurtful things in the midst of our fights before. And there's been moments where I've said to you, like, you will not speak to me like that.
And you're always right.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, no, that's not how we're going to speak to each other.
And and that's why I think our marriage is good, because we don't talk to each other that way.
As a rule of thumb. Obviously, like, we both have gone in fights and said things that we regret saying. I think one thing I think it's something that's very strong about our marriage that I don't know that every marriage has, is I do feel like you and I move through our fights very quickly. So I feel like they're probably more well, I don't know what other people's fights are like, and I'm not like a fly on the wall in other people's marriages, so it's hard for me to know, but I would say that like our fights are pretty passionate when they do happen, but they happen really quickly. Like yesterday we got in a fight and it lasted maybe like 3 or 4 hours, and that was like one of our longest fights ever in 5 years. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but it wasn't even like us arguing for 3 hours. We were like,
no.
We were arguing. We were arguing, but we were also like having a pretty respectful, passionate conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we were arguing because we had two very different points.
Yeah.
But the conversation was probably max 30 minutes, and then we were mad at each other for like a total of 3 hours.
Yeah, the emotions of frustration and like trying to process the conversation lasted like 3 hours.
It was kind of the rest of the day, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
We went to bed. I mean, we were obviously like made up and stuff and didn't go to bed mad at each other, but we were like kind of doing our own thing. Yeah, which is rare for us.
Yeah, that was pretty different for us. We don't usually do that.
And then we've been all lovey-dovey today.
We've been like having crazy makeout sessions. We're like so sad about fighting yesterday. I was wondering if we were going to do the podcast. I was like, ooh, we're on eggshells a little bit right now. So yeah, I guess so we had that conversation, like 3 or 4 o'clock, and then until we went to bed at like 10, there was like tension. So yeah, that was like 6 or 7 hours, I guess.
We had the conversation at like 2, I think.
Really? Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Whatever. 2 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there. And then the rest of the day it lingered. And then what I was gonna say is, for us, generally what happens is like we're done with our argument within like an hour. Because I think we just like let it go really quickly. And so obviously you're not always gonna be able to let things go like super, super, super quickly. But I do think that like one thing that makes our marriage successful is the fact that we are able to like both just let things go and like let the past be the past. And then what's so funny, and I think I've said this before, but it's like, even though we do get in fights, for whatever reason, I like basically forget every fight that we ever have. And so whenever people are talking about the fact that they fight with their spouse, I'm always like, oh, that's so sad. Like, Frankie and I never fight.
We don't fight that often.
Which we don't fight that often, but we do have fights.
How often would you say we fight?
Ooh, that's a good question. Again, like yesterday, that was a very unique day, but our normal, like, let's call it a spat that like lasts for like an hour, or it's like, yeah, maybe 15 or 20 minutes of combat, we'll call it. And then like an hour to 2 hours of healing emotions, and then we're back to like, being sweet. I don't know, maybe once a month.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I was gonna say once a quarter, but probably once a month sounds right.
Yeah, I think once a quarter is a little. That'd be only 4 times a year. Sometimes also I feel like we'll have like kind of not seasons isn't really the right word, but maybe like a month or two where we're just like crazy lovey-dovey and like everything's perfect, and like every day that we're together we're like, oh, I'm falling more in love with you every day, and like we're just being so cute. And then sometimes we'll have like a couple weeks where, not that we're like fighting the whole time, but we're just a little bit more on edge or a little bit more irritable, where like little things like kind of set us off a little bit more easily, so we might be more likely to get into more spats in those couple weeks.
What's a spat?
I don't know.
Did you just make that up?
I think it's a real word.
I think you just made it up.
I just made it up.
Spat.
A spat. I don't know. Might be a word. ChatGPT, is spat a word?
Cute.
I'll look it up after. I love you.
I love you.
We're in the goo goo gaga stages.
Anything else you'd like to share?
What time is it?
It's the 5:04.
Ooh, just about time for me to prep to go to Cherish for church.
Why do you have to leave so early?
Well, I have to leave at 5:45, so I have to eat.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I'm in the middle of doing a cortisol test, so I need to do my spit test for the day.
I see.
Yeah.
Cherish is a women's event at our church.
Yes, it is. So, I don't know. This podcast, I'm kind of curious what people's thoughts are. I'd love to get a DM from anyone who is like, oh, that was actually helpful. Or if it wasn't, and you could also DM us and be like, that organic version of sharing your random crap about your life was like really not helpful at all. I don't know.
This is one kind of how we envision our podcast going, though. Sometimes is like you and I will be randomly sitting on the couch or wherever and just like start talking about stuff like this, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we just like started recording ourselves on the couch and see what happens?
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
I mean, I hope it was helpful in some way.
Yeah.
At least to show that we're not like total perfectionists.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think Instagram can make things seem a certain way. And like, I don't know, like, because when you're dating, it's so hard to fully envision what marriage is really going to be like, especially if it's happy and healthy, because, so many people are telling you how bad marriage is. And so I feel like my whole message is spreading hope around marriage, and like us, I feel like both of our message, we're both trying to share with people like marriage can be so fun and so happy and so healthy, and like it doesn't have to be this hard, miserable thing. And then also like finding your person can be this like extremely special occasion. You don't have to feel like you're settling. Like, so I feel like we embody all of those things, and we really are talking from experience and all of that. So we're not just like blowing smoke out of our butts. And at the same time, we are not perfect beings, and there's imperfections within marriage. So even when you marry your dream person, you're still going to experience imperfections and like work through conflict. And so I think that that's what's like worth people thinking about, is like, okay, cool, things don't have to be perfect. But the thing I always say with dating is like, you should feel very, very excited about the person. Like, it's not like you and I, even in our dating, had imperfections, like things that were coming up for us here and there, and a few like, big argument things that we were working through. But even with that happening, we were still so crazy about each other. We were still so excited to get married. We still felt total peace. Like walking down the aisle towards you, there was no part of me that was like nervous about, you know, am I making the right decision or am I not? Like you and I we felt so
I started crying,
peaceful.
which I don't really cry that often.
Yeah, I've only seen you cry a few times, and that was definitely one of your big crying moments. I think it was McKenna maybe that said, one of my best friends, I had 2 maid of honors, but she was one of my maid of honors. She was like, I thought Frankie was going to like actually full on lose it and start ugly crying. And I was like, I honestly was worried he might, but you held it together by just a little sliver.
I was close.
Wow. Look at you showing off vulnerability.
Oh, man.
I think the other time I saw you cry was when we did a cricket meditation. You remember that?
Yeah.
When we were dating, we were like sitting on his...
When my grandpa died. So that's pretty much it.
Oh, it was when your grandpa died?
No, I'm just saying that's like the only other time.
Oh, yeah. I did. Yeah, you definitely, you cried real hard when your grandpa died, which was very sad. I think anytime someone's died, you've cried from that because you love your people so well. And when I say anyone, I just mean either of your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
But the cricket meditation, back to that for a second, is that we were in Denver at his house there because we were doing long distance, and we were sitting on your back patio, and it was like pretty new in our little love story, and we were just so in love with each other. And I just remember we were sitting like just on the steps, and I'm pretty sure like, you know, our legs were touching. I don't know if we were like holding hands or if your arm was around me. We were just like sitting there in silence, like listening to the crickets playing. And we were both just like soaking up like our love and the crickets. And it was like a peaceful summer night or whatever. And then I just remember we both looked at each other and we both had like tears in our eyes. And we were like, this is such a beautiful moment.
We should start doing that again.
I know. Are there crickets in San Diego?
Not where we live, but yeah, there are.
Okay, so we gotta go find some cricket
Or we could
meadows.
just go to the beach and listen to waves.
A wave meditation, if you will.
Either way.
I'm down. And just gaze into each other's eyes and love each other.
Sounds nice.
It does. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We appreciate you all and always love that you spent your afternoon or morning or moment, your cleaning session, your walk, whatever it is that you've been doing throughout this podcast. Thank you for doing it with us. We really appreciate you. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM on Instagram. And as always, leave us a review. Mwah!
Bye.
Bye.